Start recording. Yes, and just for the sake of time today, we're gonna get started pretty much right on. I don't want to wait too long. Just to be respectful of folks' time. How's everybody feeling? How's everything? We're good.
Everything's good.
That's
Yep.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, good.
Had a long day, but everything
Yeah,
is good.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that. I a little bit about me. I've never watched The Sopranos TV show because it's just a lot of like I try to stay away from things that are like really traumatic. I don't like a lot of like crazy hyper violence and like some of the more super mature themes or whatever, right? But there's this YouTube channel that makes these super cut compilations of one specific character from the Sopranos show. And then like they play every scene that they were in until they leave the show and they cut out some of like a bunch of the fluff. And I shit you not, I feel like I'm watching the entire show by watching just these like hyper focused scene breakdowns, and it's kind of wild, kind of wild. I've never watched a show like this before, but I'm feeling it.
Are you like watching it on like YouTube Shorts or like TikTok or something?
That's how it started. I started on YouTube Shorts, so because
Okay.
for whatever reason, YouTube Shorts is full of Sopranos clips. I have no idea why.
Mm-hmm.
But I started because of that, and then I just started getting really into the clips, and I was just like, man, what the heck? And so my algorithm just started popping up and showing me all this Soprano stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
then I just found this channel, and I was just like, man, this is a good channel. This is a great way to consume this content.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, all right, we are set. We are ready to go. Before we get started, does anyone have any questions, concerns, or want to bring up anything at all in relation to the last class, or just while you're out in the world and in the wild taking your photos? Or are there any particular things that you may have come across? Because I'm gonna briefly hit the presentation from last Sunday. But if there's any particular section that I need to like stop and focus on and spend some time with, let me know. Because I want to get through that portion, and that way we can just get right to our feedback session. So, any
I don't
questions
have
or
any
anything?
questions, but I was like not in a good headspace last week, and I feel like I want to like try a lot of these things over again. Are the slides available?
Yes. So what I'm going to do
Okay.
is I'm going to export this whole slideshow as a PDF and all the other ones,
Mhm.
and then I'm just going to put those into our video and slides channel. Yep.
Okay, cool.
So I'll do
Yeah, because I
exactly
just
that.
wanted to go through that stuff again because it was like such a cool opportunity. And my head was not in it.
I
It
feel
was
that. I
not a
feel
good
that.
day.
I'm sorry to hear that. Genuinely. And what's cool, we will be having another portrait workshop. So generally we do portrait, then we do editing workshop, then we do a motion workshop, then we do another portrait right before the end of the course. So we'll have another opportunity to lock that in.
That's
Um,
great news. Thank you.
but yeah, so no questions, no concerns. Let's get going. Um, so number one, we talked about holding the fire. Of course, we refer to light in our class as fire because it's just I don't know, it's very primordial. That's kind of like the first time we ever been in control of, or really been able to just kind of like hone in on the quality of light in human history. And we just talked about mainly about why lighting matters, right? Like what's the not only the point of it, but like what does it communicate? Because as photographers, we talk a lot about conveyance, and that's one of the more important things when it comes to how we take photos and how we approach a photo, especially the artistic stuff and portraits. Let me get rid of this guy or make him a little bit smaller because I don't want to get rid of this. There we go. Um, but yeah, so it's important to talk about lighting and employing it in the way that we wish, because that conveyance is what provides emotion. It can convey power. It can illustrate deep sorrow or joy and glee and whatever those things are. How we utilize light is huge when it comes to the mood behind us. And a lot of times the people who take photos artistically, we're very much into a vibe or an aesthetic and just types of photos that we like to take. And so understanding lighting and how to use lighting is going to be crucial for all photography mainly, but especially when you're looking to do more cinematic, emotional, moody, artistic types of stuff, because how you and where you place the light is the main factor in what happens with that. So here are a few lighting techniques that are just ever present within all photography for the most part, and especially when we're talking about portraits and shooting people. But you can also see a lot and use a lot of these techniques when using lighting to take photos for products, e-commerce or food, things like that. Um, and we're only going to talk about four, technically five. I count two together because they're just kind of like opposites of each other. And the first of them being would be short lighting, right? And short lighting, and when we talk about lighting, we're almost always referring to, especially when it comes to portraits and other types of subject matter, the lighting and what makes a certain type of lighting a particular technique is its relationship to the subject matter, right? So for short lighting, that's when you light the side of the face that's furthest from the camera, right? So like if I'm standing straight on like this and I'm squared with the camera, there's no further or closer side to the camera because it's just a flat image. But if I were to angle myself here, right, then you can see that the furthest side of my face is here and the closest side is here. And so for short lighting, it's when we light the furthest part of the face. And so this is the closer part, and the furthest part here is the one that's being lit. And you can see that with this style here. As you can see, her face is angled to where the side closest to the camera is not lit, while the back side is lit. And it's just a great, interesting way to just convey deep emotion, just a very cool cinematic look. And just, you pair that with like a nice posture, some eyes closed, and maybe some nice moody colors, or, maybe an interesting, deep black rich background. You can create a really compelling and emotion filled photo by employing a simple lighting technique like this. And doesn't really speak to any particular type of lighting. It's just mostly where it's placed in relation to the face or the portrait, the person. And generally, these types of lightings are going to be best. They're going to be best employed when they're softer. A hard light, like something like a headlight from a car, or something that's like really really close up. You won't get that type of look. Something that's softer, like maybe a lamp with a lampshade on it. Or shooting someone when they're right next to a window, and you have like that softer quality of a light is where you're going to get these really nice emotion filled images. And then next we have broad lighting, which is the exact opposite of short lighting. Like we just talked about, the further side is going to get the light in short lighting, so that means the closer side is going to get the light in broad lighting. And you can see the difference here. As you can see, the side facing the camera that's closest gets the majority of the light. There is some spilling, there is some fall off, but the main portion, the main most, I guess you would say, the larger area of real estate gets the majority of that light. It spilling over is not a deal breaker. That can work, but this is considered a really good example of broad lighting. And as you can see, it's a lot more opening. It's a lot more open. It's a lot more kind of joyous, a bit, still very rich with like personality, right? So whenever, if you're taking portraits of someone and it's like for a biopic or, a book cover, album covers, like really creative artistic things, this is a very good style of lighting to accomplish something like this. And here's the short lighting and broad lighting side by side, just to really give you that contrast between them, right? This one, clearly, the broad lighting is a lot more, expressive. You can see, details. I mean, it's a lot less expressive. You see more details. It's kind of like, something that you would see in like fashion, maybe like a model headshot, things like that. And here you get a lot more expressive detail because you have the shadows kind of playing. He doesn't do as much in terms of emotional face changes or posturing per se, but he definitely could have gone with something that could lean into that, as well as personally I probably would go with, like, if I'm doing like short lighting, um, I'm most likely going to have a darker background just to really drive that point across as well. But just wanted you guys to see those two side by side. Then we have Rembrandt lighting, right? And we talked about this in class a little bit, but photography is the offspring of painting, portrait painting mainly, and it's just a lot of the techniques that were employed by old classical um, painters from back in the days. That's kind of like where we get a lot of our study about light and how it reacts and how it can change the mood and change how we feel about a photo. A lot of that comes from lighting, portrait painters, and one of the foremost authorities in that will be Rembrandt. And so there's a whole style of lighting that's centered around the way he would illustrate shadows and lights in his work, right? And you can see here is a paint, literally an actual painting of his, and you can always tell something is Rembrandt when you have like a small triangle of light underneath one of the eyes, right? And it's something that's really common amongst all types of photography, especially in film, right? Whenever you're trying to convey a really deep emotional or even just like a rich emotional scene or setting, that triangle and that Rembrandt lighting is going to be a really great way to show that, right? And you can see that here. Another example, slight Rembrandt underneath this eye. The light's a lot harsher than like a shot like this, but as you can see, it still communicates like that Rembrandt-esque style. And it's generally accomplished just with having one light, a little bit off at a diagonal from your subject matter at like a 45-degree angle coming down. You don't want it to be too high, you don't want it to be too low. That's where you're going to get that really nice triangle. And now butterfly lighting, right? Or what's known as paramount lighting. And it's called that because it was honestly coined at a time in which, it was just the industry standard for actresses mainly to get their portraits done like this. And it was like in the 30s or so, and you had actresses like Audrey Hepburn and this other lady, I always forget her name, but she's like this really classically trained, actress from back in the days. And you know, it was kind of like it became the just like the one of the main standards for shooting glamour and like what is it, makeup, and just like it's a really elegant glamorous type of lighting setup. And it's usually accomplished from the light being directly above, shooting downward, and what it does is it creates a shadow right underneath the nose that's in the shape that kind of resembles a butterfly, and that's where it comes from. And here's a few examples here, right? And you can see there you got a little butterfly shape right there. A little butterfly shape does not look like a butterfly to me personally, but that's what they call it. And as you can see, it's just like a really nice angelic look here, especially. And then just a remarkably, smooth, clean lighting setup that just creates, just a nice flattering shapes and flattering shadows for like that really glamorous type of look, right? And here's another example. You can see that butterfly shape. And here's an example of how it's used in the modern days, right? It's not as dramatic as the others because it's a makeup photo, so it wants to be a lot more brighter, a lot more inviting. But you can see here, you can still make out that slight butterfly shadow underneath the nose. But yeah, and now we have split lighting, also known as side or hatchet lighting, which in many ways is used for strong dramatic setups. Much like short lighting can be very emotional, this is kind of like short lighting on 10, right? And it has less to do with like the direction and which side is the broader side. This usually is employed when, you have your subject matter is level with your camera and like straight on, and then you have one side completely lit while the other side is not. Just using really cool expressive styles of photography. Here's an example here. This is like a more softer example that can be used to employ like during like a lifestyle shoot. And then here's another more dramatic example, as you would see, in like a movie villain esque type of look, right? Here's one of my favorite examples here. Just complete, just strong split, right? Like almost no fall off whatsoever. Like it's just complete darkness, melts into the background, and it just like creates a really interesting, eerie look to your subject. Um, but yeah, man, really cool stuff. And so I just want to talk a little bit about some of the ways that we can employ lighting within our work, even if we don't have access to some of the most, expensive styles of lighting and or gear that most photographers may use. Um, Lamplight, great example, great way to use, some of the light that's around us. And what's really cool about this is that you can find lights, that have this type of cone look. I've literally seen this type of shit like at IKEA, right? Just like a cool little lamp with like a little uh tunnel that kind of creates a small spotlight type of scenario. But that can be used very easily to create a nice, you know, just unique look when it comes to the lighting that we have accessible around us. And it creates a little bit of shadows. And as you can tell, look, just from this look alone, if they rotated this light away from like the side and brought it more towards like her front, right? Like that would have been that butterfly lighting that we were just talking about with like the cheapest version of light you can probably find, right? This type of stuff you can get, from Goodwill, Walmart, whatever. And I've even seen people use like, even if you don't have a lamp that has this type of cone type device, I've seen people use like, poster board, and they would tape it around, or even they've used aluminum foil, anything that can create like that focus of light in an area. You have yourself a really dope and unique light source. LEDs, these are extremely cheap, very accessible nowadays. And you don't even need to get one of these big boys. Like you can get one of those small LED panels for like maybe 13, not 13, maybe like $30, upwards to maybe like $50, where you can get like a larger panel. They're chargeable, battery operated, so you can put them in a lot more unique places. And this is where you can get like these types of like interesting lighting setups as well. And what's cool about LEDs, they don't produce heat. And the reason why that's so useful is that you can use what's called a gel, which is just a translucent piece of paper or plastic type of material that you put in front of the light that creates a color, right? A lot of times when you use these types of lights, they're not as capable with using certain gels because they produce so much heat, they can melt all types of things. But when you're using LEDs, you got a lot more freedom with that type of uniqueness, right? Then we got window light. Don't sleep. Never sleep on the window light. Oftentimes, we want to get right out into the source of the light and maybe get right in front of the sun, but that can create a really harsh look. It can create a really harsh reaction to like our subject matter, and especially when it comes to skin. So shooting near a window where it automatically is going to start softening some of the light that comes through. It's going to bounce around the areas, especially if you have a lot of reflective colors in your house or wherever you may be shooting. But getting a little bit closer to the window and allowing that light to kind of bleed in onto your subject matter is a great way and a great place to just like start experimenting and just seeing how light may react in different ways. And like you can create some really cool, unique looks just from your windows as well. Especially if you got these like really dope ass window doors. Like I wish I had that. And just a couple of different examples, right? Like, we all got some really interesting spots in our house that, maybe reacts to light weirdly, right? Especially at that time where we come home from work and you see that light coming through the hallway and it's like, man, that's like a cool little light shadow, whatever. Maybe experiment, throw something there or throw a person there and just see how shooting with this really unique light and this really interesting light can transform a portrait into something that's very captivating, right? Um, Another great way that people can utilize light and just the things around them, right? This is just sunlight and one just constant light source, and just shooting it through different objects, right? Where you can now, you're not only just using the light to convey, but you're also using the absence of light, right? Via a shadow. And this is just like a regular ass little church hat, right? You probably get this from Five Below for below five, right? And some shit like that. And then right here, just regular blinds, but just even just like the way that they, this young man is sitting at these in front of these blinds, like it creates a weird curvature, which just unique all around us. So there's not necessarily always a need to go out and cop the most expensive styles of lighting. sometimes we can start practicing and getting familiar with the relationship with light that we need to have, just with the light that's around us, and just a different, unique approach. Um, and then we have our reflector and mirror, right? So when we're out shooting, especially for most of us, shooting portraits and shooting people in the daytime with natural light is going to probably be the most common setup for our lighting scenarios. And so you may not have the ability to bring out like a really dope light that you can use as a strobe that's colorless. But what we can do is we can utilize the light around us and maybe reflect it, diffuse it, or manipulate it to a sense that can be beneficial for us, right? So you can either use a reflector. We talked about this in class. I'll see if I can find an example. I'm supposed to be updating the list, so I'll do that. But you can use a reflector, which is like this really reflective surface. It's like most photographers, use it for their portrait work, but it has like a warm like yellow side. It may have like a silver side, and sometimes inside it has like a little diffusion panel. But it's literally just used to reflect and bounce the light around you. And though this may look like a really nice, light source might be coming from some device, but this type of lighting comes from just bouncing the light that's around, and this can be the deciding factor between a duller, flatter types of images and just like a really nice full light that kind of fills in those shadows and maybe create a little bit of warmth to our subject matter that may not be there naturally. So yeah, and this is just a reflector. No other sources is present. And as you can see, just another example of how that reflection and utilizing reflection of light can like really transform the types of images that we can create, right? Really, really dope. And just a couple mistakes, that we want to avoid when we're going through lighting. I'm updating this in our Discord, so you'll get an opportunity to kind of like go over these. If you have any questions about these later on, let me know. We can talk about those in a breakout group. But just a couple, and to me they're kind of major, and these are some of the main ones that I kind of have to reflect on and remember. Like, hey man, these are the ones that kind of tripped me up the most. And I feel like just having these, not there, you're not going to remember them all the time. It's going to take you a lot of experience before you start just doing these things and just being mindful of them on your own. But just I wanted to have them out there just so that you can know going forward. How do we feel? Do you have any questions or concerns about that at all, or anything that we just talked about? Ideas, maybe one of these things may have tripped you up, or maybe you've been having some experiences with your lighting or with your subject matter that just hasn't been as desirable recently. Anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah. And let me know if this is something you'd rather do in like a breakout, but like the idea of controlling the spill light, is that more like positioning your subject or the light, or like changing the intensity of the light? Like maybe you could speak on that a little bit.
Yes. So when we talk about spill light, there's two types of spill that we really want to avoid, right? There can be spill light for if you're trying to shoot something for your particular, like for your subject matter. You want to control spill light for that, right? So I'll give you an example. Hold on. Jeez Louise. All right, bet. So, for example, right? And I'm telling, this is like one of the LEDs I was telling you about. Super cheap. I got this online, Amazon, for maybe $30, right? Um, so for example, right, if I'm trying to do like a style of like let me turn this off. Say if I'm trying to do like split lighting, right? If I'm like right here, no, it'd be more like here. Bam. Try to do split lighting, right? We have lighting on this side, we have lighting on that side. No light on that side. The positioning and making sure that my light is in a position to where that damn, let me get it darker. To where I got like that effect is most prominent, right? And it has to do with like relationship between your camera and like your subject matter and the light. Because if as the more I rotate over, I'm spilling over. So now it's kind of a bit more Rembrandt than like split, right? But also when we talk about spill light, it can reflect on how much that light doesn't just affect the subject matter, but also how it can affect the background as well. Because if I'm trying to create a really deep conveyance, right, a look, as you can see, like look at the background behind me, right? You see, it's like it's all bright now, and it's like it's not the added effect that I want. I want a deeper, more emotional, you know, dramatic look for my subject matter. And even though I'm getting that light on my face, I'm not controlling it enough to where it's minimizing the light in the background. Like I'm brightening a lot of the area that I don't want bright as well, right? So, like, look, I got this fucking chair over here is bright, like the reflector on the everything, right? So, part of the spill is I have to worry about the spill on subject matter and how that affects the face, as well as the spill behind. Um, in a lot of ways, what we can do, especially if we're shooting natural light or shooting outside, sometimes the spill that we need to control mostly has to do with where our subject matter is positioned. Give me one second. A lot of times, especially when we're shooting portraiture or we're shooting natural light outside, the positioning of our subject can cause a degree of spill that's not desired. And that sometimes can just come from us being too close to the background, right? So if you're shooting with someone and you want to, have a specific type of lighting or just want to be more mindful of lighting, and if you're not necessarily sure, sometimes the best thing you can do is just get them away from stuff. That way, there isn't any area where the light can spill, because what ends up happening is you can have light that spills over, and then it creates a point of emphasis that you don't really want to have in your work, right? Let me see if I can find an example. Hold on one second, because they're everywhere. They're all over the place. Let me see if I can find portrait photography natural light. All right, let's just see what we can find. And of course, this by no means do we have anything negative to say about these folks and their work. We're just using it as a point of reference. So let's just see here, right? So here's an example, right? Nothing wrong with this portrait, necessarily, but you have this really bright area that I don't necessarily. I mean, I can kind of make out. It's like, I think it's an elephant. I don't know what the fuck is going on, but it's really really bright, and it's also very similar to the skin tone of the person that we're shooting, and it's just like it's a very bright area where the light is spilling, and we don't necessarily care for the eyes to land here. So it's just a point of distraction. It's just a point of distraction. And even though that they're not in control of that light source, when we talk about light spillage, that's light that is kind of like not being controlled, and that we're not necessarily we didn't put it there, right? If we keep going, we can find some examples here. This is something that I often try to avoid as much as possible. But just shooting with, the background just really, really bright. And when you don't have a reflector or something to brighten up the image, right? There's nothing wrong with shooting with the sun behind, right? And it actually can create like a really dope look and effect. And it's something really, really cool that I feel like a lot of people can get value from. But when you are shooting with the sun behind the person, just understand that that's going to naturally create a shadow and shadowy areas. So just get a reflector and just bounce that light back onto them, because what you end up doing, if you don't have a reflector, you have to expose a lot higher to brighten up their, the shadows that comes from them shooting back facing. And when you expose to see their faces, all of the detail and everything in the background just becomes like super duper whitewashed, and you get a really deep imbalance between foreground and background that doesn't really seem natural. So yeah, just like here's an example, right? Let me see. A lot of places that have I've seen a couple things that are really cool, right? So here's an example here, right? You can't really tell, but there's another light source reflecting light on her, right? That's why, because you can see that there is no shadows. There's not a lot of high contrast outside of underneath her chin. That's because there's something reflecting that's filling in those shadowy areas. If we were to look, as if we can find another example here.
Hey, Fu, can you go back to the picture of the two? And where's it at?
These here?
Right there. Yeah. Can you where would you put the reflector in this case if the sun is like behind the subject?
honestly, you really can't go wrong. You can go directly in front, you can go right, you can go left, wherever you really want the light, as long as it's at an area where it can catch the sun and then bounce it back. Because once you have a reflector, especially for shit like this, like we're talking about portraits. Remember, that's low to no motion. So you don't necessarily need to freehand this. And if you have the time and you're getting creative with your folks, pop that guy on a tripod, right? And especially now, these modern cameras are really, really cool to where you can use what's called, like, for Canon, they have EOS utility. I know Fujifilm has one, Panasonic has one, where you can remote view and take photos with your phone. So you can set it up on a tripod, get your reflector, get it at the angle that you want, and then hit the shutter with your phone. If not, do a timer or have like an assistant, whatever your situations are. But there's really no place, and I can't tell you where you should put your reflector. It's just a matter of where you want it, because that's the artistic choice. But the technical decision is making sure that your subject matter has enough light so that you don't have to sacrifice your exposure just to brighten up the image. Does that make sense?
Yeah, from what I'm thinking, like, so if you were to put it like in front of the subject, then the light would bounce off the reflector and more onto the face. But if you were to put it like on the side, then it might bounce like to the side of the subject type
Yep.
thing.
And that's up to you.
Okay.
That's up to you. Like, where you should put the reflector doesn't matter as much as you making sure you have enough light on your subject so that you don't have to then blow out your background just to expose the image. You know?
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
where
you.
where the reflector goes, that's an artistic choice. And I can't tell you what to do with your artistic choice, but just mostly how to achieve the technical understanding. Um Here's another example, right? Not a problem, but you see, it's washed out. Then you got the shadow, you got the raccoon eyes, like a lot of just artifacts and things that aren't as flattering. But then on the flip side, you get a shot like this, right? And that's why I tell people all the time, like, really good lighting looks like no lighting sometimes. And it feels natural, it feels balanced, it feels like it makes sense. And it's funny, but when you watch a movie or you watch a film and you strip down all of the movie magic, it looks crazy because our eyes and our brains have become so used to shit being balanced, because that's what our brains do by itself. But when you look at an image and it doesn't have all of, like, the funky stuff on it to make it look amazing, our bodies, I mean, our minds don't really understand. Here's a great example, another one, side by side, right? Reflector versus non-reflector. Great example. Great example. It just adds a lot more brightness, fills in those shadows, and it creates a separation between the background and the foreground. That's just a lot better. Lot better. Um, but yeah, that's what we talked about. That's what we mean by, like, spillage, and that's something that you want to keep an eye on for the most part when it comes to portraiture, because a lot of times we tend to really not be mindful of where the sun is at when it comes to our portraits, and also just how we expose our background. Right? Generally we don't want to have like a super duper bright background that's just gonna blow out the image and just like really minimize like that value. I'm trying to find another example. This is okay. Can't help that they're in sand, but like to me, it's like it definitely helps. It helps your image kind of get lost in a lot of the detail because it's just so bright and it's just like a lot of negative space that doesn't help anything. Trying to find an example. A lot of these photos that we're looking at are really good and they're really solid, right? A lot of times you'll find an image like this, but instead of the entire area being in shadow, you'll find like they'll be on a part of a trail, and that's a great, like, you'll be on a trail and you'll be at a park and you're just like, hey, come stand under the shade, and it's like you get them under the shade and your subject matter is in the shade, but then now your whole background, you're shooting the whole rest of the park or the rest of the trail or the field that's like extremely bright, right? And you'll just have like a really washed out image. I wish I had an example where I can really show you. But either way, we understand that. Here's an example, bam, right here, just like that, right? Like, not a bad thing, but just like it really doesn't accommodate a real nice harmony when it comes to our images. And the best thing you can do, especially when you're shooting in a really nice environment, and it seems like the background looks really nice. It looks like it has like these really cool trees, like that one place from Mortal Kombat. Like, it looks dope, but because of them having to accommodate this shadowy area that they're now standing in, they have lost all of the detail and a lot of the flair and character to this image because of them now having to accommodate this person. They really could have exposed a lot lower because they're kind of blown out in a bunch of different areas. But here's another example here. Does that make sense? And I want to let me not be
Yeah.
cool.
That's good. Thank you.
Cool beans. Any other questions and concerns? Great question. Yeah, great question. Any other ideas, thoughts? Oh, look at this little image. Look at my man's. Look at baby looks 36. But yeah, are we good? Do we have any other questions or concerns? I hope also too, right now will be the perfect time to kind of get into get your feedback ready, right? Get your photos ready, whether that's your personal images that you want me to talk about and you want us all to kind of like talk about as a group, images that you've seen online that you think are really cool and you want to talk about how this photographer captured that image. We can go through it together, break it down and see, how they did it. And the reasons for that is because, once you know how people are doing some shit, you can then start aligning yourself or your process to then start replicating that style as well. And that's going to be step one. For a lot of us who are shooting for the first time and we may not have our own style or like process of execution, the best thing you can do sometimes is like follow someone else's process because that will get you acclimated to just the process of creativity. And sometimes that's the best way to get you to creativity a lot quicker, right? Because when you have to figure out what to do and where to put my lights and is this creative? Is this unique? Is this interesting? Like you'll waste a lot of time trying to figure out how to get started when you can just find someone else's process, utilize that, get started in the way that that you know how to start because it came already from someone else. And then once you're in that position, you have a lot more time to just get funky, make adjustments, and then you can use that as a baseline to kind of like find your own creative process. Does that make sense? So that's one of the main reasons why we do the feedback with other people's work, right? Somebody about to say something?
Yeah, this is Casey. So I know we're talking about like more natural light, but it's I feel like when I'm in like the studio, like I get a lot of hot spots
Yes.
on my faces.
I would love if you uploaded some of your work so I can look at it, and then that'll be probably the
Where do
best
you
way to
want me
talk
to
about it.
upload it to?
So we have a text channel, right, connected to this particular like room that we're in, but we also have a channel called feedback chat. That's generally the best place to upload it, and then that's where I'll pull it. We'll just bring it together, talk to it as a class.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a couple things I can speak to about that particularly, but I definitely want to see your setup and what you're shooting to best give my most accurate assessment. Um, as well as your own work and anyone who wants to upload someone else's work, feel free to also upload maybe some of your raw images. If you like, we do have our editing workshop coming up, but if you want to kind of talk through a bit of like editing and like how I may approach it, this will be a great opportunity as well for you to upload some of your personal work, maybe some raw images, and I can just kind of show you how I would start off that editing process if you need some help with that as well. I got a couple images that I'm going to pull up from some recent stuff that I shot, and we're going to talk about, what I did, why I did it, what I did wrong, and what I should do better next as well. But that's only if you guys don't already have a bunch of stuff you want to upload. And I know some of y'all, especially if you were there for the portrait workshop, I know y'all got some shots for me. Don't sleep. I need at least one. If you're at the portrait workshop, I need one at least.
Okay,
One.
I'll put mine in.
All right, and it don't got to be edited. I just need one though. Upload that banger, the one where you're like, ooh, I'm cold. Like you love that. Also, I'm about to eat this quesadilla in front of y'all. Sorry, not sorry. Let me know once you guys have your photos uploaded. And if we don't have any other questions or concerns, we'll get right into our feedback session. Okay, cool. We got one. All right, I'm just going to download these and we're going to pull them up. Cool beans. This is great. These are great shots. These are great shots. Oh, nice. Nice. Cool. About to pull these up real quick. All right. Cool. Cool. So we are here. Let me move this guy. How'd you get out? How about you get out of here? Get out the way. Bam. Okay. Stead, what's up, brother? Can you mute your mic for me, bro? Thank you, sir. All right, so it's Casey, correct? Casey? Cassie, my apologies.
Yes.
So number one, first tell me what some of the issues you feel you're experiencing with this image, with these images.
I feel like in her face, it's like a lot of hot spots. It's not even.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. And you're talking more so like here in the cheek area, right here in this area. Boom, boom.
Right.
I like what you're
Yeah.
doing, right? You have a fill light and you also have like a little bit of a rim light kind of going over here.
Correct. Yes.
Now what I see, I'm not sure, you know, how far you are. What do you mind if I ask what lights you're using?
Yeah. So for the fill light, I used the Explore 600 flash point with I think it was like a 32 parabolic or BB dish.
Okay.
It was a what is Adorama's brand? I forgot what it's called.
Not necessarily sure.
I forgot. But and then in the back, I'm using just the 8200 Godox for the rim light.
Nice.
So it was just a 2 light setup.
With the beauty dish, you had a diffuser on it, correct?
Yes.
Did you have a grid as well?
No grid.
Okay, cool. Not necessary. Grids are great ways that you can utilize. Like they're a great thing to kind of like soften up light as well, right? You have your diffuser, but then you also have your grid, and you can think of your grid literally like a strainer, right? Like if you have light coming through and you have a bunch of different holes that it goes through, especially if you have like a multi-combed grid, it's just gonna like soften it up and just kind of break it apart. That can be one thing as well. Also, just moving your light a little bit further away. You know, sometimes having a beauty dish and the bigger the light source, the better, because it can create like a really flat or even image. But if you're having some hotspot issues, what I would do is either lower the intensity, and then maybe use a reflector. And personally, for this type of image, for this type of look, I would be using a reflector anyway, no matter what. And like you could use a reflector and just kind of have that guy. Where's my color? Make it red. You can have that reflector and just like literally having it like off to this direction, right? Kind of like at a diagonal. And so you can bounce that diagonal up towards her front as well. But you bounce that light up in here to kind of like even out that look, because you're either experiencing maybe in my opinion it will most likely be your light is a little too close because it's creating those highlight areas, because you can tell it's close, as well as how do I crop in? Jeez. Yeah, so I need to get one of those apps where I can like mark it up and then like actually do cool stuff. But you can see here, right? So you have your catch light. You can see it's catching here in one eye. It's not catching the other eye. And so it just seems like you have it in an area that's like a little bit too close. That's probably what the main thing I would say. It's a little too close, and it's creating those highlights in an area where you might just need to just stand back a little bit more. And at the angle that it's at, it seems like it's like a bit higher up, like up here in this top corner.
It is.
So you won't. So just by moving it further back, I don't think you'll have any issues with too much spill. Like the light is going to keep going at this direction. It won't spill too much on the background, and I think it'll still give you that look. Um, but definitely try moving it further away, and then maybe using a reflector to kind of like hit those areas because you will get some dark. It will get a little bit darker the further you move it back, and then you
Exactly. Yeah.
compensate with a reflector or just maybe
Okay.
exposing. I would never say like expose higher. That's your personal decision. But move it back.
Yeah.
Use a reflector, or maybe also too, you can just get another diffuser, right? Like you got the light there, and then just throw another diffuser right in front of it, right? One of those like retractable ones, and that can help soften out the light as well. Because I don't know I don't know the space, so
Yeah. It
I
was a smaller space, a
exactly.
smaller studio.
And that's one of those
Yeah.
things that that will always happen. I've shot in very very small studios. I got a small studio in my house that I use, and just because of that, you do have to make sure you make a couple accommodations for the light not being able to go as further back as you would like for it to
Right.
be. Um, yeah, but there are highlights, but to be real with you, it's not bad. It's not bad, and you don't want to get into a place where you're getting rid of or trying to minimize the natural behavior of light, right?
Right.
There are some areas that you could minimize, like highlights, right? Like some, like right here on this, like on the nose, and then right maybe on this curve and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
the highlight here on this cheek, the highlight on the lip, this highlight on the cheek, like
Mm-hmm.
that, those are great. Those are great. They show depth, they
Okay.
show texture, and sometimes when people they get rid of the light, they get rid of reflections, they get rid
Mhm.
of pores, and you end up with an image that looks like, okay, the reason why lighting looks good and it makes sense is because our brain kind of like it takes in all this other information about how light behaves and
Right.
it puts it together and we ignore it. We ignore it. But if you get rid of those little cues that our brain picks up on, people are going to be like, I don't know why, but it looks weird. It feels weird, and that's because it's just missing all of the stuff. But no problems with
Okay.
these images. No problem with these images. What also too you can do is maybe bring that light around because it kind of looks like we were just talking about before. You kind of have like a broad lighting type of setup, and I'm not sure if that's
Mm-hmm.
intentional, but that does create some deeper, more dramatic like shadows. And I just don't feel like this was. I don't feel like you were trying to go with a deep dramatic look with this shot.
Right.
So like,
Yeah. I
yeah.
wasn't.
So oh yeah, just bring. I would like literally. You have it like up here at maybe like what's that 2 o'clock. I would maybe rotate it up
Yeah.
around at like 12. This is a beauty glamour butterfly light type of shoot, I would say, and so
Okay.
something like that for this type of vibe will be great. And that way, when you have that lighting coming from an even area, the highlights will be kind of
Mm-hmm.
even. That way, all you have to do is diffuse, and it should flatten out some of that stuff. But these
Okay.
are very nice images. Great image. Great lighting.
Cool.
Sensational.
Thank you.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Um, nice. Who do we have next? We had that Olive. Olive. My portrait workshops with some stingers. I want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. But there's a portrait file. Okay, so we're gonna kind of look at this. Interesting use of light.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
it's not portrait. If you want to save it for another time, that's cool too. It's just a guy whose stuff I think is cool, and I'm curious what you think about it.
no, that's totally fine. I mean, we're using portraiture right now as like the model for what we're talking about, but we're talking about lighting, and that's, I mean, as photographers, talking about lighting is something that we need to do all the time. So it's absolutely no problem. And yeah, any portion of that, because we have a lot of people here who aren't portrait photographers, and so understanding light and how it behaves in a plethora of different scenarios is going to be great. And you know, we got to talk about it. Let's do it. Um, so yeah, I'm really a fan of some of this work. Right? Heck yeah. So I can tell you for a fact right now, a lot of this is a result of some very good post production work as well. Um, nice. And I'm just kind of going through a couple different things so we can all see. Heck yeah, heck yeah, Yeah, a lot of this stuff that I'm seeing, it has to do with how he's approaching his post-production work, because obviously, like, this green haze isn't going to show up naturally, but you can emphasize that within post-production. But one thing that I'm saying that he's really good at is just utilizing and employing negative space in very creative ways, right? Like throwing a puddle, or just making sure you incorporate that puddle in the negative space to reflect some of that light. Just great work. Great work. And it's something I've seen kind of, used consistently already, right? And just using the whole frame, just using that whole frame to just like compose that image, and just like mixings of different colors can be really, really dope. Love this shot. One thing that I was talking about with a friend of mine not too long ago, and this is going to be crucial for you guys as you get further into your journey, especially those who are already kind of editing and getting used to post production to an extent. um don't be afraid of dark images. Like dark images are fine. Some parts of the world are dark. Life can be dark, right? Not in a fucking, like, actually dark. But like this right here, some people's natural inclinations are going to try to like brighten up the shadows, and even like a shot like this, right? No slight to his work whatsoever, but like I would have loved to see, like, and you can kind of look in here a little bit and see where he brightened up some of the shadows, in post production. And I think it's cool and it's fine, but what you end up getting sometimes is like, can I even zoom in? It's not letting me zoom in. Yeah, let me see if I can just download it, and I'll show you what I mean. I'll zoom out. Bat reset. Why is it taking so long? Jeez Louise. But yeah, when you and I'm as I'm going through some of his work, man, his stuff is fire. Really, really dope. But yeah, you just want to be careful sometimes when it comes to brightening up some of those shadows, because it can create some uh relationships that just don't feel as natural, right? And I think the dark contrast can be really, really cool when it comes to conveying that emotion, right? You were saying
I'm
something,
assuming
Olive?
too, like, yeah, like these got to be pretty long exposures, right? Like this is like set
Um,
up a tripod
yeah,
territory.
I'm trying to figure it out. I think it's either long, like for like this shot right here. I feel like it could be long exposure, or it could have been brightened up in post. I'm not entirely, and it also kind of looks a little HDR as well, like because there's a lot
Mhm.
of like sharpness, and like you see, like there's like this glow around these areas, like around like the house. I was trying to download the image so that I could really show, like, and zoom into it. Um, Not a problem whatsoever. Like these are super solid, super cool works, right? Um, yeah, these are dope. These are dope, and like as you can see, like just that mixing between the cool and the lights, like, can be really, really dope. But one thing that I'm seeing in this work that seems pretty consistent, and I may be wrong, but I think a lot of what we are seeing in terms of like the colors, this is done in like post production mainly.
Mhm.
Mainly, like it's very less like you're not going to get this level of intensity and brightness to the whites and the lights in camera, while also maintaining this type of detail and color in the sky, right? Great work, not a problem whatsoever. But just like as we're going through and we're trying to like learn more and do things with our work, one thing about social media that we gotta just never forget is that, you know, sometimes what we see doesn't necessarily mean that's how we can, or how that photographer accomplished that in camera off one shot, right? There's a lot of work that people put into when it comes to their post production work, and you know it's almost never a good idea to take how we're shooting now at our stages and then looking at more seasoned photographers and then going, damn, why doesn't my shit look like that? It's like,
Mm.
because a lot of times they're cooking it up, right? They're cooking it up. um Not a problem though, it's cool, it's still art, you're doing your thing. Like for example, like something like this, right? Like there's just no, the sun, just there's
Yeah,
no
that
place the
sounds
sun looks like that,
great.
you know?
Yeah.
Like you're not going to get an image where you get this warmth from the sun and these cools in this street level area. Um, cool, captivating, unique image, but this is just not what's happening. It's just not what's happening. And just understanding like that's why your work doesn't look like that, right? It was something that I had to realize that, a long time. This is one dude. He was a photographer out in Japan, and like I was like, man, how does he get the dude was like literally would like I'm not gonna say his name, but dude literally would like fucking he would like use Photoshop and like increase the scale of the moon and like make the moon bigger. I was like, yo, this is crazy. Like I had no idea. Like adding clouds, and he would put the moon like right above like Mount Fuji and shit. And I was like, man, I gotta get to Japan. That's crazy. It was wild. This is fire. This is outrageously fire. Yeah, but great stuff. And this is what I mean by like lighting is the deciding factor between compelling images. Like no shade, but my boy looked like he lived. This is like trailer park Midwest bumblefuck. This is bumblefuck. This is exactly what bumblefuck looks like. And these are some of the most unique, surreal images that I've seen in a long time. But that's just because of his ability to capture, utilize, and manipulate the light that's around him, right? And so, like, look at that. I mean, what the fuck? Just a whatever. But it's just dope. It's really, really fire. So, developing that relationship with your shadows and your lights and understanding how it behaves and just, taking that creative approach. Like, look at this. This is the carport. He probably drives home and looks at this every day, but just like being here at this time of day, shooting from this angle without the garage light on and just like having the porch light kind of spill through. It's just like really, really cool stuff, man. Just like never underestimate how much is around you that can create really interesting, remarkable images. There he is with the puddle again. Great, great work. Like just really cool, really inspired stuff. Really inspired. I mean, just like we said again here, like it's not green. Farmers Home Furniture does not have green lights outside of their stores, you know. And who knows? This could be a result of like maybe he could be using old or damaged film that can create different color effects. I can't say for certain, but this is not done in camera. It's not done in camera.
Yeah.
These are cool effects. Yeah, like this is. I'm pretty certain.
More too about like being able to shoot at night like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's really wild to me because I've not gotten a lot of great night shots.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I think a large result of some of this stuff, and I can kind of tell from the grain. Like I think he's using film. Like that's where you're getting this really nice, rich color from. But also from just like the graininess and the noise, it does look a lot like he may be, increasing some brightness, in post production, or potentially could be, long exposure. But I don't think it's. Excuse me. I don't think it's long exposure because I feel like there would just be more blur, in some areas. Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure. Like, see right here, like this is a shot. Is this him? This can't be him, because he's shooting it with one hand. It's one handed because this guy has one hand up. Yeah, I'm not sure. Either way, cool stuff. Great lighting. Great thing to look at. These are great things to look at in terms of using that inspiration, but just make sure you understand like the difference between, reality and what's being cooked up, because they do some cooking. These are fire.
Cool, thank you.
These are really fire. Heck yeah. Next we had, was it Jasmine Johnson? Let's see. Okay, hold on. Look at Jasmine Johnson with the flicks.
That's not my photo. I didn't say that was my photo.
Okay, still, but this is
I like.
Okay, nice. Still, it's a dope photo. And I got excited because we were just talking about this.
Too.
We were just talking about this.
I did.
With the reflection?
Look at me knowing.
That's what I'm saying. You tapped in.
I love the reflection in the water.
Yep. We were just talking about that. And like that's what I'm saying. Like just something that's generally benign. You take an image, right? And you see something, it's like, how can I shoot this thing in a way that's creative, unique, and kind of like more to my own style? That can be shooting through something, through the reflection of a window, through the reflection of a puddle. I mean, as a photographer, man, like there are certain things that you're going to get experience over time that's going to just make you more excited. You get what I'm saying? I mean, we talked about this in class about how art and the understanding and the broadening of your understanding of art can increase how you experience life, right? Like y'all remember when we talked about that? Yes?
Yes.
You remember what I mean? And like, so you look at a situation like this as a photographer. Now when it rains, you're like, you have more context. It's like, I can probably go out, get a cooler reflective shot now. Now when I go and I do my shooting, I have a lot more areas to bounce light, get reflections. You know, like my man's that Olive shared, right? As a photographer now, when it's raining, I'm thinking about, ooh, what shots can I get in the rain? Right? When it's foggy, I'm like, ooh, that's gonna create a cool effect here, right? When it's windy, I'm like, I can set up my tripod and use long exposure, and then the trees will look like they're cotton candy, right? Like, there's so much more now that you can experience and like connect yourself to when it comes to all these different scenarios visually, that as a photographer now, like, your ears tend to perk up to. So when you see a puddle, you just like, oh man, what can I do to make this, to utilize this new reflective surface, this new, almost, you're doubling your subject matter when you do something like that. And so yeah, this is a really dope approach, something cool. Put that in your, if you don't have it already, put that on your tool belt. This is a great way to just do some really dope shit, even as portrait photographers, right? For my folks who want to shoot folks, you can get somebody and you can sit their ass right there in that puddle and throw a pebble in it, and then focus on the puddle, and then you get the reflection with a cool little ripple. And if you crop in enough to where you don't even see the person sitting in a puddle, you're creating an effect that folks are going to be like, whoa, I don't even know what I'm looking at, right? You can get as funky as you want to, as funky as you want to. But yeah, how can I take a rain picture next
What do
time?
you think about the lighting on this photo? Since it was at night, do you think they just were able to use the lighting around Coca-Cola Rock? I mean, around Buckhead Theater, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't. I personally,
just
as much as I like this image, like, it's a cool image, but like, I don't see them utilizing any like really advanced style of lighting technique. Like, they just went for a really basic exposure. Not basic in terms of like creativity, just like basic in terms of like output execution, right? Like, they just exposed normally for for the street for like what they're shooting, and they just got like a really cool angle, right? Um, like, the lighting was just pretty basic, and I honestly, this could have been shot with a cell phone. If I'm like just kind of like looking at it, like, it kind of looks like it was shot
mhm.
with a cell phone, maybe. Um, Not a slight to it at all, but just like in terms of like the exposure and like how they may have been controlling it, I don't really see anything that's like completely out of the ordinary. Just like really basic, neutral exposure, and then a really banger angle and execution artistically. It's a vibe. It's a vibe. Yeah, no,
I got it.
you say what?
I said, got it.
Heck yeah. And yeah, Cassie, I was just thinking something I'm thinking about. I think about that a lot, right? Like, shooting in the rain. Um, like, I can see if I can find it, because I actually have a thing that I got on Amazon that is literally for shooting in the rain. Hold on 1 second. No, it's downstairs. Give me a sec. Don't go nowhere. All right, so I haven't used this yet, but I'm super fucking excited to do this. But so I got this thing on Amazon. It's literally just like a I don't even know what to even call it. Like a little sock, like a sock you put on your camera in the tripod, and then you set up. You can just put your arms in the sides. But this shit is hard, dude. This shit is so cool, and like, I don't know. I haven't done anything with it yet, but I just don't want to waste it. I don't want to just go out and do nothing. And what seems really cool about it is that I can put it on and just like have it and hold it while I walk around, but I have only one hand access to it. So when I figure out what to do with that, I will let you know as soon as possible. Um,
Yeah, let me know how it works.
yes, I
Taylor
will.
put her pictures in the feedback.
Say that again.
Taylor put her pictures in the feedback chat.
Okay, fire. Let me go just find those. Yeah, I might do a video. I might do like a video review of the little thing. That might be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Taylor with the bangers. Let me download these. Smooth. Download them. Okay, bet. Right. All right. All right. Nice, nice. I mean, off the bat, like banger. Great shot. Um, great positioning and lighting. Solid conveyance. Even the angle that you shot it at, right? It's very grand. It's very like it's very how do you say? It's kind of, it's very epic, It's kind of like a really cool shot. This is very full of personality. I really don't have any notes for this too much, except for those who are part of my class who come to these virtual sessions, I will never not stop talking about composition and just a little bit of crop, right? And it's going to become second nature. But sometimes when you're looking at the image, you got to look at the whole image, and you can't ignore those corners and those edges. And so when we look here, we got a little bit of his hand, got a little bit of his watch. Doesn't play a part. Like we talked about when it comes to composition. If it doesn't add to the story, if it doesn't complement, then it takes away. So what we want to do is, as much as we can, we want to make sure we're minimizing things that will distract or take away from the image. So honestly, how we can come in like this, lock that aspect ratio, and just cut out that hand, right? Boom, right there. Bam, easy, super simple. Other than that, great image. I can't even say. And are these raw or are these been edited?
I edited these, but yeah, that's a good point with the hand. Thanks for that.
This is solid, very, very solid image. Yeah, no notes at all. Let's see. Here, so the only difference between this image and this image is that he has, in this shot, he's you can tell he has more of a closed posture, right? So there's no mystery. Like, I'm not wondering what he's doing with his hands, because it's like it's fine, right? It's all together. It's composed, and like what he's doing with his head, the angle, and everything like that, it works. It captivates. For here, when his arms are spread out, naturally I'm just kind of like wondering like what's going on. Was he reaching for? Is his hands out? Are they? You know what I'm saying? So like when you have your subject matter, unless you're directing them and unless you have the opportunity to direct them to like maneuver where they are, then just step back, get a wider shot, incorporate that whole image, right? Remember, composition is about not just what we choose to leave in, but also what we choose to leave out. And so we need to make sure that the things that we choose to leave out, they don't provide more of that distraction for us. So just shooting this on a horizontal, right? Like a landscape image would have proved to be a little bit better, or just tightening up all the way to where, we got a full, like headshot type of situation, right? Like, it wouldn't be the most flattering, thing and to crop it, but in terms of like how you shoot it, I would most likely probably go in for either wider or tighter, just to make sure that we're not, losing, like we're not losing the effect of an image because of how much our brains and we're just as the viewer just trying to figure out, right? But otherwise, solid image. Like lighting, right? You're crushing the lighting, the exposure. You're excuse me, you're crushing the shutter speed. Like, these aren't blurry images. They're not out of focus. They're not underexposed. They're not overexposed. So like your technical execution is all there. It's all there. Just definitely, when it comes to your subject matter, just make sure we're incorporating as much as we can to really fully tell that story. Solid here, very, very solid here. No issue with this image whatsoever. Just as always, we can always kind of tighten up on our composition, right? So if we can, maybe kind of come in, get rid of some of that headspace, and if we can balance, maybe put his eyes a little bit more onto that third line, create more of a balanced image. He's already facing outward to the more negative space. Something like that could be really cool. Yeah, other than that, solid image. Solid. And this one, love this. Listen, I love me some like sunset building shadow combo. It's my jam.
Yeah, this is actually my favorite one.
Yeah. Like I love this whole situation. Like, this is just fire. Yeah, no notes, honestly. Always, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's always composition. Anything that we can do to improve and increase that, the better, right? Generally, when I look at an image, I look at where does my eyes draw me to, right here, which is this huge highlight. And then once I do that, especially with my own work, I go straight to the edge and I just follow my edges. I follow my edges. I'm looking for lines. And I'm looking for things that are going to kind of like take me out from like the focus, right? And so right now, what do you think? What do you think I'm looking at? Read my mind.
I see a sign on the left side, like it's kind of like cutting into the picture.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then what else?
I think maybe those power lines, top left.
I'm okay with the power lines. I'm cool with them.
Okay.
It's one thing. It's small. Anybody? What are y'all thinking?
Um,
Can you move your like
Facts.
what do you call it? Because I can't see the bottom right of the picture. There we go. Okay.
You like how I did that? You see how I just disappeared? Hold on, why did? Ah.
I would probably so I don't know. Maybe take out that window, like crop it in to just focus on the four windows with the shadows, and then take out that window on the right.
This window here.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that. You're close. I literally would just come in. I would come in right here, because you see this seam.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because it's kind of like it's not a result of your framing per se, but it makes it look uneven because that it kind of, veers off. So you want to get rid of the thing that kind of makes it look like it's not shot or level. So I would just come into the corner of this window. Bam.
That makes sense. Yeah, it
I'll
looks
come into the
cleaner.
corner of that window, and then like it's just a lot cleaner, right? I probably should have came in a little bit more because we got a little area right there, but yeah, just a lot cleaner of an image because we want to make sure we're not cutting off any lines, we're not cutting off anything that pattern wise could make us feel like the image lacks balance. But yeah, probably that's the only thing that I would do with this image, right? Super super solid. What's really cool though sometimes too when you're shooting like with direct sunlight is you can also go for a darker exposed image. So just exposing a few stops down, maybe bringing your ISO down a little bit more. Especially if you're shooting architecture or buildings, it almost can never hurt to bring your aperture down a little bit more just to get a wider range of focus. But these aren't things that you should have done better. These are just things that you could have done to, give a different look and a different appeal to it because you crushed this one already, no matter what. Solid. Heck yeah. Who else we got? We got someone else just dropped in the whoops. Okay, Cassie with the work. Hold on, let me download these. Now these look great. Let me download all of them. Nice. Solid. And are these edited or are they raw?
they're edited.
Nice. Love that. I love that you went with a softer like post process. Like they're not super harsh, they're not too intense. Like that's fire. Let's bring these up right here. Bam. Yeah, not honestly solid. Great use. Who can tell me what type of lighting is this?
That's the split. What is it? With the darker side and the no.
Is it Rembrandt?
I mean, but not really. It's a little brand. Ain't the full brand. It's a little brand, but it's mainly one.
Is it broad?
Broad light.
Broad, exactly. Because remember, we have our subject matter.
Yep.
They're not level with the camera. They're not facing straight on, and the side of their face that's closer to the camera is the one that's experiencing all that light. You do see a little bit of spillage on the other side, and if it was visible, we would see probably a little triangle, making it Rembrandt. But we don't see that on this side. So technically, anything that's not visible in this image don't exist in the real world, right? So technically, this is broad lighting, but very solid image. Like I love the color that you chose. I love how you it seems like you brought down some of the intensity in the colors. Yeah, I like it. This is solid, very solid. As always, composition, framing, the best that we can do. Just looking for like those little artifacts, like this little bridge thing up here doesn't really help us, and then we have some stuff down here that doesn't necessarily help us. So I would just probably come in here a little bit, get my little rotate on, bam, and then I'll come down literally to the top, like to the bottom of this bridge, right? Because I don't care to get rid of too much headspace. So I'll come to the bottom of that bridge area, and then, yeah, bam. I'll do something like that. And honestly, I probably should have came up a little bit higher. Like this area right here is a little funky as well. So like maybe coming up here would be good, right? Because we do have like that bleed, that like darkness, and let that fall all the way off. Because with this already here, it kind of bleeds into darkness, but then it comes back up with a little bit more light. Doesn't really help. Let's let it fall off all the way. Cut that, bam. And then, if you feel if you super jiggy in Lightroom, right? Get your spot removal tool, and then just kind of like knock out some of those little areas that can distract us, right? So,
like those,
like this little thing right here, cook that, cook that, cook that, cook that. And honestly, this one might be funky, right? And it depends on your proficiency, because if these things are just lights, which is fine, but this one creates, like, as you can see, it has like a little bit of a flare. Like you can see those like little triangles. So if you're not careful, when you get rid of this area, you may not get rid of all of the flare if you're not paying attention, right? If you just go in for that circle, the like the solar flare will still be there, and it'll create like a really weird ghostly effect. So whenever we're getting rid of things in Lightroom, or especially getting rid of lights, make sure, if possible, to get rid of any of the extra effects of that lighting that it may cause in the image. But other than that, like that's probably the only thing else that I would do with these images, right? But it's very solid, great composition, great work. The emotion is there for sure. Same here. Love this. Now, what type of lighting is this though?
This is the side, the split, the half. What is it called? I can't remember what it's called.
It's close. You're close, but it's not split. Who knows?
Is it Rembrandt? Because you got the triangle.
You got the triangle. Look for if you want to know what type of lighting you have, look for the shadow. What the shadow's doing? What the dog doing? That's how you know, right?
Well, yeah, I do see that triangle.
Yep. Remember that triangle? That's the Rembrandt. That's what we're looking for when it comes to Rembrandt. Now you can have, and that's the thing, right? And because one thing, especially when it comes to split and broad lighting, one of the main things you're gonna need to know whether something's split or broad is the orientation of our subject matter, right? She's facing straight onto us, like even though she's looking somewhere off camera, right? For us, her shoulders are square, her face is square, right? It's an equilateral amount of her face being shown, so there's no broad side and there's no short side. So at the most, it could be split. But because there's some light here, it's not split. And that light creates that triangle right underneath the eye. We Rembrandt it up. Easy. Yeah, no notes for this shot though. Great shot. Great shot. I just probably honestly I just would rotate. That's it. I'll just rotate it.
I was trying to figure out how to do a composition for this one. It was kind of hard because when I tried to crop her like the legs out and stuff, it didn't look right. So I was like, let me just go back to full lighting.
I wouldn't crop out the legs. Honestly, I love how you expose, and I love the dark fall off, right, for both of those images. Sometimes, and we talked about this before, when it comes to leveling and just like the balance of our images, sometimes when you have lines and things that can illustrate level, them not being even can really emphasize the misalignment of an image, right? So we have this diagonal line here, right? That's going to be fine. We can't do anything about that necessarily, because you're shooting it at an angle. So that being slanted is always going to be there. But when we look at these lines in the background, whenever I'm trying to level or find like some balance, if I can, like when I'm rotating, you just see if you can line up those vertical lines with a line in your image. So you see how we just lined it up right there with the grid?
Yeah.
You see that? Bam. We do that. creates a lot more balance, and it's just going to help just with the balance of the image already, right? It makes it feel a lot
Yeah.
more less slanted. And in terms of cropping, I wouldn't do too much. Like I like the wideness of it. If anything,
Yeah.
I would just, if you're going to go for a crop or you want to bring it in, just go. You're going for the eyes. Keep the eyes on the third line. I like how she's looking out, right? So I'll probably have her looking out to. I wouldn't put her in the middle because in the middle, the eyes mostly should be looking straight ahead. So if she's looking off to a side, I want her looking towards, negative space. And we want to remember, we want her looking towards um the inside of the image from the third line. So I'll probably put her here. Just an example, right? Let's probably put her
Right.
here, kind of come up here a little bit more. We're gonna cut out that couch, come back down, bring her eyes, put them on that third line, and then bam, right? Not this isn't what you should have done. It's just like an idea, like an option when we're looking to crop or transform or add more to our images. This is another way that we can probably go about it. But great work, great work. The only other thing that I would do, and just kind of like a rule of thumb when it comes to certain types of portraiture, whether it's a horizon line or any other types of lines, I like to prevent anything from cutting my head, right? I don't like anything to kind of like cut the head of your subject matter, right? You either want them to be above it all the way, or you want that line to be kind of like beneath it. Of course, this is a shorter woman and the bar behind is a little bit tall, so you can't necessarily help that, but just something to think about going forward. Like that's definitely something you generally will want to avoid unless you have like something conceptual that you have in mind.
Okay. So I probably should have shot her from up top more so than
Either up top or you can go
a
lower.
lower angle.
Exactly. You can either go up top or go lower. Whatever. Sometimes you just have that. You just gotta get the shot, and you don't necessarily know. You may not have the time to mess around. But if you're shooting with someone, you got it's a portrait session. You definitely got time to kind of like mess around and see what you can do. Great shot though. Great work. Great work. Let's see this one. Stellar image. No notes. Honestly, this is like a great, fantastically expressive image. Great composition. You got her sitting right on this third line, and then you got her looking inward to the negative space. It's great conveyance. You got your leading lines. Like, yeah, no, this is a banger. Great, this is a banger. Great exposure. The shutter speed was great enough to like capture her in motion. You got the hair flipping up. Neutrogena cover girl is going crazy. The only thing that I would like, right, personally, is the foot. Yeah, I hate that the foot is cut off. That's the only thing, right?
I'm not gonna lie, that is something I have to work on with everything. It's something about the one foot that's always cut off in my image.
But you know what it is? Rule of thumb: just shoot wider. You have a nice enough camera to where you can shoot wider and then crop in and not lose a bunch of quality. So next time, just maybe shoot a little bit wider and then see how that works out. And here's one of my rules, right? One of my rules of thumb is like either cut it in or cut it out, right? So if you're not gonna have the whole foot, then get rid of the foot. Get rid of the foot, because now it doesn't feel like a mistake. Now it doesn't feel like it was mistakenly left out or you left out a portion of it. It's more intentional. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So for your post process, kind of go for that approach. It's like, damn, I cut the foot again. So get rid of it. Get rid of the whole foot. Don't leave no half foots, no half fingers, none of that. This is a solid image. Same here. We know this is Rembrandt lighting. We got the triangle going crazy, right? We talked about everything here. No issues. You can also maybe use a spot removal to kind of get rid of the light in this corner as well. And then also same thing with the hand, right? Cut it in or cut it out. Right? Cut it in or cut it out. Bam. Right? You just see right there automatically just kind of gives a lot more balance to that image. Solid. Same here. Solid. You got your hand. Cut it in or cut it out. Cut it in or cut it out. We're gonna go right up in here to the wrist. And then we also got this corner, we got this edge, and we can see that the line kind of starts and then it kind of like bails out more at the top. Whenever you see lines, vertical lines kind of belling out like that, you know that it can be fixed with a little bit of rotation. So instead of just going in for the crop, I'm gonna just try to rotate and level up that line, right? Boom, and then kind of come in just a smidgen, right? And I don't want to get rid of any headspace because the headspace is a good proportion, but we don't like that corner. So you can probably just use, a spot removal tool, cook that up. That'd be solid, right?
Okay.
And then maybe something that I would probably do is I might come in a little bit more and just like maybe level her more in the middle, right? That gives me some more space to come up here. I'm going right to her finger. I'm not going to cut that finger off. And that might give us some more space to kind of come down a little bit. Something like that. Bam. Not better, just different, right?
Yeah.
Not better, just different. Just like
The
because
composition looks definitely different, but I like it.
we're pulling in. We're intensifying all the good elements of this image. We use composition to intensify it, right? To emphasize what we want people to look at, and we want to minimize things that can cause distraction, right? Because even though it's not narrative or it's not conceptual, it still tells a story in some way. And so we want to make sure every visual element caters to that story. Great work though. This is solid. These images are off the chain. Bad. Same here. So the same thing about our horizontal and our horizon lines cutting off our images. Same thing about our vertical lines, right? We want to definitely try to avoid, telephone poles or any lines cutting our subject matter or going right down the middle. It's not right down her head, but it's close enough to where it can be a bit of distraction. So we just, we want to avoid that as much as we can. It might be tough. If you can, go for it. I know, if you don't have the proficiency, if you don't have like, the Lightroom or the apps that really can, getting rid of stuff that's also with the hair can get kind of difficult. But if you're proficient, if you're comfortable, definitely, I would remove this. Like before I consider this a finished image, I would remove this and then remove the telephone lines with it as well because, kind of like the same with the light and the light beams. You'll see these these lines without a pole look kind of funky. You could get rid of that as well if you want to. Not necessary. But yeah, no, solid image. This is a solid image. Great conveyance. Was that the last one? Nope. Here's the last one. Yeah, this is gas. Very, very fire. Honestly, because of the executions feels so artistic. There aren't as many things that I would say that should have been done differently. I really like the shot. Yeah, that's solid.
I think it was a full body shot, and I think I cropped it into this.
Solid. Great work. That's it's a testament to just what it means to like really follow through with a shot, right? Like sometimes we can shoot things and like, we shoot wide and maybe a portion of it doesn't necessarily reflect how we want it to look, and it's just a great layup. I would like, I'm curious to see the full shot, but doesn't even matter. Like this is a great crop. However you approach this is solid. No notes. Heck yeah, dude. Great work. And we got all these right. Well, that was the last one. Yeah.
That was the last one.
Solid copy. Do we have anybody else in feedback? I think I see a new one right here. Let me check it out. Y'all are crushing it, bro. I swear to God. Stead. All right, let me pull these up. Let me download these guys. Nice. Heck yeah. Okay, cool. All right, Stead. Let's get it. Solid image. Great context. In the same way we just spoke before about like incorporation, right? Like I feel like you could have gone wider, right? I feel like there's a lot more in this scene that's very unique, and there's still some stuff here that doesn't necessarily have a full way to convey, but the image quality is solid, the execution is solid, but in terms of like the composition, I think a wider shot would have provided more context for the setting that would just give more of that story. But other than that, I think it's a solid image. No notes. And we talked about this with your last submission, and I'm not sure if it's the same setup, But something that I'm definitely seeing is that I feel like you are pushing your ISO a little bit higher than it needs to be because you are using a flash, and it seems like that is brightening the setup as necessary. It's brightening the scene um, enough to where you may not need to bring your ISO up as much. And that's really the only thing that I'm seeing. Like I'm definitely still seeing like a little bit of that noise that I don't think it may not need to be there. Are you Stead, are you shooting in RAW?
Yes.
That's what that is. That's what that is. I mean, listen, here's my opinion. And we talked about this before. Um and I mean this respectfully, but there's a process to editing your raw images that it takes a little bit of touch, and it does take a lot of practice to know how and learn how to edit raw images to bring them back in terms of quality, right? And naturally, when you shoot raw, you get a lot of flatness in the color, but also when it comes to the quality, because of all the details that you get, and it's a higher res image, you get a lot of this grain that you really only see when you shoot raw. And if you don't know how to bring that all the way back, you end up with a product that has like a lot of that grain in the images. And me personally, this is like my own personal opinion. Um, unless you're shooting like high profile clientele that requires, you know, um, high resolution images for print or other types of publication, like you don't really need to shoot raw. You don't need to shoot raw because it'll save you on file size. And if you don't have like the full know-how to like bring your photos back to that quality that they should be, you will end up with like some of these artifacts, like a lot of this noise and this grain. Um, and I don't know. I say definitely keep practicing and keep doing your thing. Like not saying what you should or shouldn't do, but I'm definitely if that's something that was a concern that may have came up, that potentially could be what it is. Because I remember one of your last submissions we talked about that, and at first I thought it was because it was ISO, but you telling me that you shoot in RAW, like that's definitely what it is. That's that RAW look, and we have our editing workshop this Sunday coming up. No, the Sunday after next. The Sunday coming up, we're doing motion. But Stead, whenever you want, we can hop on and we can lock in on some editing, and we can talk specifically on how to edit through our raw so that we can bring back that quality and like kind of just really taking advantage of that noise reduction baked into the Lightroom suite. But good work though. Good work. What the heck? Where are we at? Did I not download the? Oh, here we go. Bet. Solid work. Solid work. And here's the thing. And I'm glad you're here on this session, but I think next time, if you can, if you don't you have an external speed light, right? Said.
I have a strobe and I have a flat feed objective.
Okay. I'm not sure if it's wireless, but what's cool, especially about these speed lights now, a lot of them have slave features to where you can sync them up to your strobes or other speed lights. So like I think an image like this could benefit very well with just like one other light, like a light from behind, add a little bit of rim to kind of like create that separation of light between the background and like the shadows in her hair and the rest of her body. Like this is a solid image, and if you had a rim light just to kind of like create that hairline separation, that would take this image from being solid to like a super banger. And I definitely try experiment with that next time. Like I'm sure you would crush it. I'm sure you would crush it. But great work, great composition, great focus all the way through, right? Like this is very solid, very solid. Zoom out, jeez. Why do I keep missing the images? What the heck going on? Hold on. All right, bet. And same here, very solid work. That's one thing I like about your work. Say like it's solid, it's dependable, and it's consistent. And were you here earlier when we went through the slideshow from last Sunday?
Was.
Okay, solid. So look, what do you think I'm thinking about this shot right here? Who knows what I might be thinking? Anybody?
Reflector on him?
You get you a reflector. You bounce that guy right up in here. You create like a nice full, because you did the right thing. You got into the shadows, and you got exposed. You got your exposure right where it needs to be. But just to give it like that extra little bit of oomph, like that little, that color pop, that light pop, and just to really create that separation between, him and the background, you get a reflector and you bounce that at an angle to where make sure there isn't any bleed that gets onto the bricks behind him, and then you just reflect it onto him so that it fills in those shadowy areas, and yeah, that would be a great addition to this image. Like you're super duper solid and you have everything there. And I think man, the next step for you, Stead, is like to really like, all right, now it's time to like branch out, get out of your comfort zone, and like start adding in a few extra little things to just like bump up your work to like that next level. Like throwing in a like you solid shot, a reflector, banger, right? Shot before it, right? You got your man. Why is it not doing what I tell it? All right, you got this shot, solid. You throw in a rim light, banger, and you like it's really just like a few small things that you can add to not necessarily improve your ability, because your ability is there, but it'll just improve like the quality of it. Um, just by adding a few more elements, because I mean you got everything, bro. You're literally batting a solid average, and now it's like just adding a little trick, do a little backflip with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Heck yeah, bro. Solid work, and yeah, we'll definitely make some time to create a breakout group to talk about editing raw, because that is going to be necessary too, especially for like my intermediate for the intermediate students. But solid work though, super duper solid work. It was just those three, correct?
Yes.
Nice, nice. Heck yeah, dude. This was a really good session. Y'all came out with the fucking heat, yo. Um, do we have anybody else? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Do we have any concerns or questions? Did that make sense? Anything that I said either about the slides or maybe something from some of the other students submitted work? Anything else that we want to talk about? Any concerns at all? Statements?
Gear, and it might, I know we're not talking about it, but it might be a short answer, so I figured I'd ask.
Please.
I was thinking about the stuff that you put, I think it was last week, it was like at the end of the presentation, sort of some things to keep in mind, like dynamic range and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like comparing some options for some secondhand cameras. I'm wondering what you think about like older cameras. Like at what point is something like it looks good on paper, but it's from like 2016, 2015. Like, does that matter? You don't think it matters?
It depends, honestly. I would say, especially now, if we're talking about like photography as the hobbyist, as those who wants to experience, the creative side of this art form. And we're not talking about commercial. You listen. You can really get funky with like a camera nowadays. You can get funky with a camera that's 10 to 15 years old and like take
All right, good.
solid work.
That's what I was hoping you'd say. But then, like, a guy at the camera store was like, "No, you don't want anything that old." And I was like, "I don't know if I trust you." So, yeah.
Respectfully, fuck them. Like, we're talking about art.
Okay.
These dudes are talking about. Everyone is talking about commercial. That's what they mean when they say like, "Oh, you can't use older," because they're talking about commercial work. They're like, "Oh, you gotta have whatever. You gotta have low light performance, dynamic range, like all these different things." Like I'm about to show you. We're about to go and do some. We're going to show you some shit. So for example, right, you have literally my favorite camera of all time, the Canon 80D. Like that guy, it's a banger.
It's not mine. I gotta give it back.
I mean, I know you gotta give it.
few hundo. As
Right.
long as you don't think age is like a big deal, then that's what I need to hear.
No, not at all. I mean, because also too, remember we're starting off, um, just we need to get acclimated with a camera, with the process, and then once you start shooting and you're just like, man, this is it, I'm feeling this, then you're gonna feel the need to go out and like shoot some like something else, and then that's gonna create a need for you to get some other gear. But at that point, you're not gonna talk. You're not gonna be like, oh, I ain't got a budget for that. At that point, you're gonna be like, I'm about to get this other job real quick so I can save up to get this camera. You know, like
Yeah.
there's no budget that we won't spend when it comes to the shit that we want, right?
Yeah.
So like, look, check this. If we were to go to, uh, so it's like 800 maybe retail. If we go here, 80D body 450 with battery and charger. That's a good deal. That's a good one. I was looking at a couple other ones that are going crazy. Canon EOS 7D. 7D is a solid camera for 250. Not bad. Not bad. It's older, so you do lose a couple like frills when it comes to like you won't be able to use like the EOS utility app with it. That's why I like the 80D, because that's right on like the newer age where they have like remote viewing, and like you can send some of the photos to your phone, things like that. Those little bells and whistles. But in terms of like shooting and actually getting good images, you can get funky with a little bit older cameras for sure.
That's awesome. That's great.
I would say also too, whatever your budget might be, the 80D, and this is just something to think about. The 80D, just as much as I was talking it up, it's fire. I love it. It's like 800 retail. You can get it for like 500, 400 secondhand. But you can also get a Canon EOS R, right, which is the first in their mirrorless series. I mean, look at this. They're selling the RP for 240. This is a steal. Is this real? This might be fake. Yeah, this might be fake. Sometimes I gotta who's selling this? Sometimes when I gotta go see who it is. Vernon Dennis? That don't even sound like a real name. Yeah, I don't know about this one. Well, hold on. No. We'll see. I don't know. You got, this is not, you're responsible for your own marketplace etiquette.
I got you.
But the R,
yeah,
like the
it's really, it was just the age thing that was tripping me up. Everything else I feel good about. I got a big comparison spreadsheet.
Gotcha.
Watch my sales.
Yeah, don't worry about the age per se. But the only thing I would say just to look out for when you're looking for older cameras, just think about the functionality that you may want. Autofocus speed is going to be, kind of important. Not as important for you because you do architecture and landscape. So you don't need a fast autofocus. That's not really.
I want something versatile though, because I like to do weird stuff. I like to go and photograph roller derby and wrestling and stuff too. So I want something that can move.
Heard. Okay, so yeah, so keep that in mind. You're going to be looking for autofocus speed, and then also I would suggest just for functionality, things that are kind of newer to where you can do some like remote stuff, maybe send things to your phone, utilize the app. That's always going to be really, really fun. Other than that, not super necessary. You'll be solid. And I sometimes when I find like really cool deals, I'll throw them up on the Discord. And sometimes I find like little videos, cool stuff. Yeah. I'll keep an eye out for the 80D as well. The 80D was genuinely my favorite camera of all time. It's not the best I've shot with, but it's my favorite, and it is a workhorse. But solid. Any other ideas, concerns, questions, statements you want to shout out? Pookie them, whatever. Anything.
Quick question. So I know you saying, hey, the age of the camera doesn't matter, right? But for what me personally, I'm so used to using that little like flip up screen, and like some of the older cameras I really don't have that. So is that more of a handicap for me, or do I need to learn how to like just shoot what I can afford, and then, like you said, save up to get a new body?
Here's the thing, right? Whatever is comfortable for you, that makes you that makes it easier for you to get the images that make you happy. That's a worth it. That's a worth it investment. One of the reasons why I like the 80D and like the D series, right? It's because they have that flip out camera, like the 60D, 70, 80, 90. They all have that. Like that was the first camera I got that had the little flip out guy that could like come out from the side, and then you could bend it, and also you could flip it in flat. Like love that. Um, some cameras have it, some cameras don't have it. You know, there's a lot of really old Sonys who started flipping out their cameras like pretty damn early. Um, so I would say whatever is your process, man, and like whatever you're comfortable with. Like if you need that flip out camera because of how much you shoot in certain areas, or maybe you want to get low shots without laying down on the ground, or you do concert work and you need to have your camera up above your head and like have the camera flipped, like that's if that's a need, bro, that's a need. That's a need, and like you can't argue that, right? You can't argue that. Um, So yeah, dude, I don't know. I would say go for it. I would say go for whatever is the most comfortable for you based on the process that you're looking for. That's why, make jotting down some of the things that you feel like are going to be most comfortable for you, and then you pursue that. But like I say, I can't stress it enough, man. Like go to KEH, right? They have a showroom. Rent cameras, do research, but also rent the cameras so that you can get them in your hands and you can experience them and see what you actually like. Not just what you think, but you can actually feel it and say, for my process, this is great. This type of camera or this process is much better than XYZ other camera. And sometimes you really don't get a chance to understand that until you get an opportunity to use it yourself, right? I mean, one of the first big boy cameras that I purchased that uh like it came from me. I had a mentor and he let me use his camera, for several, weeks at a time. And I used it so much and I got so many good images that in the times when I didn't have the camera, I would be like, ugh, I don't even know what to do with my life anymore. And it really and it motivated me, number one, because I got acclimated to that process, but it made me accustomed to this quality that was like, now it justifies me saving up for this because I know this camera does what I want it to do. I know it's, comfortable for my vision and the process that I want to have. And I only got that from the context of me utilizing a camera for different periods of time. So if you're curious about something, you're not sure whether or not you can deal with or without something, try it out. Go see if you can touch it at the showroom at KEH, or maybe go to Aperture Rent, do a little research, rent a camera for the weekend, and just fuck around with it and just see how you feel. And you can, and like I said before, like $40 you can get a solid camera. Camera plus a lens might cost you $60 for 3 days or 2 days or some shit like that. And you can do that like every other weekend just to really mess around and look at those shots that you got and see how you feel about not just, how you feel with the camera, but, the color profile, maybe, the autofocus, the sharpness, the low light performance. Just keep in mind all the things that are important to you and experiment with them. We'll keep those things at the forefront. I hope that helps. Hope that helps.
Yeah, and one quick thing. I think KEH is having like a photography thing tomorrow and Saturday. They're gonna have like Canon, Sony, Fujifilm for people to try out. So if
Nice.
anybody's interested, it's happening this weekend.
If you find that information, if you have like a link to like a flyer, bro, throw that in the Discord for sure. And make sure you tag everybody so that we can all see it. That'd be really cool. Thank you for that heads up.
Gotcha.
Heck yeah. But yeah, that goes for everybody. KEH has a really dope. It's one of the most reputable places to buy secondhand gear. But they have a really cool showroom out in Smyrna where you can go out there, talk to experts and dudes and ladies who know their shit, and you can get an opportunity to touch and mess around with some of the cameras and actually test them out in your hands. So it's a really cool spot for that exactly. They also have like this really cool whatchamacallit, uh payment plans where you can do like $35 a month for like a bad boy, a really big guy, right? But yeah, how do we feel? Are we solid? It's okay if we got questions or concerns. I'm here. That's what we're doing here. So if you got any other questions, fire them off. Shoot them at me. I dodge. I'm right here with it. So let me know. If not, it was wonderful. It was an honor and a privilege. I always have a lot of fun, man. I'm loving how much we're growing, especially with the virtual sessions. I'm definitely gonna I try to market this as much as I can because I want people who can attend in person to really feel comfortable popping up every Thursday because this is the best place where you can kind of get that secondary um, portion of our lesson plans, man. And then I think the feedback section or portions of our um, sessions are like really solid. Like I really like these, and I think this is going to be like the bread and butter for our virtual sessions. If there's anything that I can do to like improve upon that, or things that you didn't like, or things that you would be like, man, I wish you did this instead, please let me know. You can throw that in either ask away or feedback chat. Anything, any place where you have any of that feedback for me, please, I can use that always. I'm always trying to refine and improve upon this model. Um, this week we have we're going to be doing our motion workshop. Blah, blah. We're going to be doing our motion workshop. I got my homie. He's a ballet dancer, contemporary, very classically trained dancer. He's coming in, and I think he's going to be bringing in some other folks with him as well. So that's going to be dope. We're going to get a chance to really mess around and kind of like lock in on our understanding with shutter speed and conveying motion within still images. So that's going to be a banger. Oh man, so you gotta come through. Gotta come through, Trev. So that's gonna be cool. Make sure you bring your cameras this Sunday. And yeah, I'm grateful to you all. I'm super appreciative. And let me know if there's anything you may need. I'm going to be exporting last week's slides and then dropping them in the Discord, as well as I'm going to get caught up with the slides from the other weeks as well and try to get those uploaded too. But yeah, solid stuff, man. Thank you all so much. Before we all start signing out real quick though, hold on one second. I just want to take one quick photo for the social medias, because that's what you gotta do these days. You can't just do shit these days. You gotta clip it, chat. So we're gonna get one of these. Bam. Nice. All right. Thank you all. Have a good night. Be safe. I will see you Sunday. And let me know if you need anything between now and then. All right. Peace.
Night.
Good night. Good night.
No.